And we are live. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Beyond the 90. We've got two very, very special guests with us this morning. A man that signed a year contract with Leicester City, fantastically, if you've seen on Twitter, and all the awesome JT as well. JT, first of all, mate, how have you been doing, and how's things been looking for your summer?
Everything's been going pretty well over here in the States. Everything's starting to get back to normal, like for real normal. And good weather. It's just been a nice time to vibe in the summer, you know?
Yeah, good to hear. And Glenn, I know with your half an hour time zone, things are a bit complicated as well, but how have you been, and how's your summer been?
Yeah, pretty good. Same here. Yeah, we're trying to get back to some sort of normality, whatever that might be. But yeah, we're starting to get a bit of half decent weather here as well, and starting to enjoy the summer. And I'm all double vaccinated now, so that's going to help with vacations and stuff like that as well. So looking forward to it.
Fantastic, great to hear. Well, let's just get straight into it. Obviously, with England playing Italy, JT, I know you were just speaking just off camera a little bit. You managed to catch the semi-finals, and what are your thoughts on England so far? Because again, there's so much stuff that's gone on, both positive and negative with England. It's been a wild ride, let's say.
Yeah, as for just like the team and the performances, I think they've been deserving of being in the final. Really, it's just been them in Italy, I think, that were really just above the others. Maybe Spain could have had a shout to be in the final, which they almost were. But I mean, even just throughout the tournament, they've looked in control of just about every game. The Scotland game, I think, was just a blip of monotony. So, but ever since then, like they've conceded like one goal or something like that, and it's just been in control. I think they've been good. The system has worked, even though at times it might seem slow and that there might not be like full force attacking like we see with this Italian side. But it's what's working, and it could very well be the style that brings it home.
Yeah, let's see. So, Glenn, obviously, I'll give your initial thoughts on that as well, because we obviously, if you make sure to check out Glenn's Twitter, he's got some fantastic videos of obviously his reaction to the goal as well, which was fantastic to watch as well. But what are your thoughts on England's this season, in this tournament?
Yeah, I think I wasn't too sure at the beginning. You know, there was a lot of hate for Southgate and stuff like that. Certainly once it got to the Germany game, I was more for the fact of this. You know what? I don't care how we do it. If it means that it's going to be not that exciting football like JT was saying, like the Italians are playing, then I'm good with that. If it means lifting a trophy at the end of it, then I'm totally happy with the type of football that Gareth Scott is playing. Yeah, I was all in after that Germany game. I think that once, since then, I also, I don't really get into this, it's an easy route type thing and all that sort of thing. You got to beat who's in front of you. And you know, by beating Germany, who, okay, they're not been the best German team ever, but by beating them, Denmark were no pushovers, that's for sure. And to be able to win it, we've got to beat this exciting Italian team as well. Then I think we'll definitely be deserved winners if we do win it. And certainly, yeah, like JT says, that we're deserved finalists, that's for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, especially over here in England with the whole atmosphere where, as you guys were saying, it's been up and down and up and down. People have been writing us off, even our own fans, to be honest with you. A lot of the fans have just been, I think we were just talking off camera with the "It's coming home" chant. A lot of it is tongue-in-cheek, but it's not been received that way at the same time. But it is what it is, I think. So, JT, what are your thoughts? Because obviously, I don't know if you've seen, because been supporting Leicester for a while, every single, because the Italian manager Roberto Mancini came to Leicester on loan magically in like 2001, and ever since then, every time a manager leaves, he's always linked. Him and Martin O'Neill always manage to get linked. And just, they obviously set up in a good way. But what do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Because again, literally anything could happen. But I think they're on a 33 win streak at the moment. So it is incredible, to be honest, the performances they're doing. But what are your thoughts on Italy and how do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, it's been an incredible run for them, considering they didn't even qualify for the last World Cup, and so in these 3 years, look where they've gotten now, and it's crazy. Their style is very exciting, and it's not a normal Italian team. Normally, when people think of Italian football, it's like sit back, defend, just play slow, and just like kind of like especially with the back line, you still have Chiellini and Bonucci back there, the old men, still marshaling that defense to an incredible defensive record. But even up front, you still have the likes of Immobile, Insigne. This Chiesa kid is coming on really strong and showing what he's got. Berardi, who I'm sure Leicester fans on Twitter have seen weird links that may or may not actually be true. And like players like Locatelli who are kind of bursting onto the scene. They just have a nice core of players, and it's a very deep squad too. Like Spinazzola just got hurt in the quarterfinal, and they bring in Emerson, and he does pretty much the same job and works perfectly in that system. That's one of the matchups that I'll be definitely looking at tomorrow. Will be those flying fullbacks going up the wings and matching up with Kyle Walker, who's been phenomenal in this tournament. I think defensively, his pace should be able to deal with overlapping runs of those wing backs up the side. So it'll be an interesting game for sure to see how the styles match up.
Yeah, and I think ironically, out of the two people that are going to play pragmatic football, it's going to be England in this game as well, facing Italy. Glenn, just over to you. And obviously, I was very young when I remember Mancini coming. But what can you remember him as a player for Leicester City? Obviously, linking it back to the channel a little bit.
Well, I think the biggest thing was the fact that it was a surprise. You know, nobody ever really thought he was. I suppose maybe the first big name that came to the club that was a that surprise sort of linked to us, and it was that flamboyant sort of the good looks and the Italian and all that sort of stuff that came with it, and that I'm just hoping that I mean, he's obviously had a really good Euros, and I just hope that it's going to stop now and that we can take over and that from here on. I think I can see going on from what JT was saying. I think the Italians seem to have been they've tended to stick with sort of like a 4-3-3 sort of formation, and I can see England sticking with the back four. I can't see us going to a back five for this one. And I think with us, there's only really a couple of places that are probably going to be up for grabs. I think the back four, Pickford obviously goal, back four. I think Shaw will probably be on the left, Maguire, Stones in the middle, Walker on the right. And I agree with JT, the fact with his speed and that, I think he'll be fine there. I mean, he's been lightning as well. I think you'll see you got Rice and Phillips will be in the middle. Rice looked pretty knackered after the semi, but I think you'll have them as the I'm going to say a double pivot. I mean, it's a double pivot on paper, but it's like with Yuri and Wilfred, how one is always slightly forward than the other. Wolf's obviously more of the defensive. Yuri playing more forward. Same with Rice and Phillips. Rice tends to sit a little bit deeper, more between the centre backs, and then Phillips tends to be the one that will push more forward. And I think you'll see those two there. Kane's going to be up front, and I think Sterling will be on the left as a shore in for that. But then it's going to be who's going to be playing as the number 10 and on the right side. I think Saka's better defensively. For me, but he still looks good going forward as well, and I think he'll stick with Mount and probably use Grealish as an impact player. But I mean, to be honest, nobody's had a bad game for us, so it's not like you're not really going to be dropping anybody as such. But I totally trust what Southgate's going to do.
Yeah, that's again, Southgate was it's so funny how it literally going into the tournament in 2018, nobody expected anything. We got to a semi-final, and I was saying on the stream recently, imagine if you're again with your kids, for example, Glenn, they've only seen England winning just like Leicester City.
Yeah,
They follow this both trajectory where we've been watching England and Leicester for years, and they were just not very good and should have done better with just the same thing. And then now they've come up, and at the same time, we've seen Leicester. Young supporters seeing us lift the Premier League and then lift the FA Cup when they don't know how long it's been to actually get there. And also with England, getting to the semi-finals, getting to the finals. I mean, you've probably got some stories watching England over the years. I don't know if did you actually manage to go and see England one time?
Oh yeah, I used to be in the fans club as it was. So I used to get priority on tickets and that, and used to go to all of the home games for a fair few years actually. So yeah, and I was there for the opening, the first game against Brazil with the new Wembley, and that as well. And that, so yeah, I've been up to a fair few of the England games. I don't mind the fact of the England games, and you get this club country type argument and that during the summer, during World Cup, during Euros, things like that. I'm all over England. But then once it gets to the domestic season, and then I hate the international breaks, and and things like the September games and stuff like that, and then I'm just like, come on, let's get it back to the domestic season, and then I'm all over Leicester again for that time. But no, I mean my daughter, she's 13, and even going back, with League One, seeing as ramp League One, and then coming up through the Championship, things like this, and then with, I mean, yes, we had the Great Escape, which wasn't the best season, but even then, she looks at that as being a positive, where from the end of the season and that, and then winning the league and all this sort of thing. I don't know what's going to happen when there might be a bit of a dip, and she's she's like, "What do you mean this is normal, Dad?" It's like, yeah, all right, let me show you some videos back in the day when I used to go and see when it was some pretty dire stuff with like David Pleat back in the days and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, but hopefully now we're riding on that little bit of a crest of the wave. That let's see how long that this one goes. We always say it's a roller coaster journey being a football fan, no matter who you support. But let's see how long we can stay up top for a while.
It's just, I think you're totally right. And it's a sports fan just in general. Obviously, if you guys watch I tend to just watch football, to be honest. But I can imagine with other sports, it's just one of those same things where you get involved in the roller coaster, it comes crashing down, but the risk is what you fall in love with, and the whole stories behind it. But yeah, obviously, just before this as well, I know we're going to preview the Italy game, but we've not had you both on and to see how Casper's done this tournament, JT. I don't know if you managed to catch many of the Denmark games. Obviously, England were knocked out. Denmark were knocked out against England. But what have you thought of him? Obviously, there's been quite a few Leicester players, again, in this tournament, with the likes of Yuri Tillemans. Obviously, Timothy Castagne got injured early in the tournament. Danny Ward is another one. So take your pick. Where do you want to start? Because honestly, I think a lot of them are really good performances.
Yeah, I totally agree. Casper, I think, has been one of, if not the best, consistent keeper throughout this tournament. His performance against England in the semifinal was pretty much perfect, exactly what we would have wanted. England still got the win, and Casper showed his world-class quality that I still think he's an underrated keeper and not enough people talk about him. But as you said, Danny Ward, who he's not getting a look in as our first team keeper anytime soon, with how Casper he just gets better every single year, which, I mean, we see that with goalkeepers usually across their careers, that like this is almost their prime years at this point. But yeah, he's gotten to be so good, and he still needs more recognition, in my opinion. And yeah, you also have Tillemans. He's been, for me, whenever I watched Belgium, I thought that he looked a little bit slower. I feel like he hasn't been the best Euros for him, but he played so many minutes in this past year. It's just you can't really blame the guy. But overall, it's been fantastic. The only thing that could have made it better is if our two Foxes that were probably going to be locks for the English squad, and Barnes and Justin, had they not gotten hurt, we could have seen them on this joyous ride through this tournament as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be the case, obviously, with it being next December, as in the December 2022, will be the World Cup, because of, again, we could talk about UEFA for ages, but yes, in that they'll be moving it to December. So potentially there. I think it'll be a bit too early maybe for Justin, because we saw how long Ricardo took to get fit this time. But yeah, over to you, Glenn, because obviously there's been same question to you: has there been any Leicester players that for England that have really stood out to you?
I think I agree with what JT was saying with the Leicester players there. I mean, Schmeichel, I thought he was man of the match against England. I think most when you're looking at like your Sky or your BBC and ITV and things like that, then they're going to pick an English player, obviously. But I would have had Schmeichel down as man of the match for that. A lot of people on Twitter and that were saying it was as an Englishman, it was the perfect ending as such, for the fact that Schmeichel was man of the match, saved a penalty, but then it was like a rebound that then meant that England won. So England won, but Schmeichel was man of the match. So as a Leicester fan, that was sort of like your best case scenario as such. Totally agree with JT and Yuri. He did look a bit tired, but the amount of minutes that he'd played for Leicester, that wasn't surprising at all. I'm trying to think who else now. Yeah,
Danny Ward.
Danny Ward. Yes, that's the thing with Danny Ward now, is the fact of does he have a decision to make? Is anybody going to come in for him? And then does he want to still sit as being the, as Brendan would call him, I suppose, the second number one, having these two number ones rather than a number one and a number two. Is he okay with that still, or does he want to go and play first team football somewhere? So he's never really come out and said anything, which you never really expect him to either. So it'd be interesting to see now whether anybody does want to come in for him, because he, in his own right, he could quite easily hold that number one shirt at most clubs around. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. I'd love to see him stay. Casper isn't going to go on forever. Not that I can see him losing his spot anytime soon. But I'd love to see him stay. With the amount of European football and things like that we're going to have, there's always going to be game time for him. It's just whether that's going to be enough for him at the minute.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And one thing as well, I've just read as well that he signed. Well, I think this puts it to bed. And the date of his last contract extension was April 15th, 2021. So he obviously sees his future here. It's something that hasn't been mentioned a lot, but I think before, I think I tweeted out earlier, I remember seeing Ian Taylor, Ian Walker, Ian Taylor. I can't remember his name now. Yeah. Ian Walker. I don't know why I went with Ian. I think the manager anyway. At the time, I remember thinking, right, it's the closest we're going to see a Leicester player to England, obviously, and in a international shirt. But Danny Ward has definitely done that. But I think if you ever want to see, in my opinion, a player that means a lot to the squad as well, and yes, he has pushed Kasper Schmeichel, but Kasper Schmeichel is levels, and I think we will see Danny Ward a lot this year, playing in Europa League, playing in the FA Cup. But for me, the moment that really shone is when he obviously was part of the FA Cup, but when we won it, he was one of the main guys. If you look at the photos that are cheering, celebrating, he was part of the Brentford game and I think the Stoke game as well. So he didn't have his role in that, but he celebrated like he was part of the squad. So I think he is here to stay. And if again, it's one thing, as we mentioned, he signed a contract extension, so he obviously sees his future here in a little bit as well. And as for Yuri, I think that, again, it's one of those things with Mason Mount. I think he had a great season, but they've just been running to the ground. And partly, I think he just really wants to stay at Leicester and fend off any other advances from other clubs, which means that he just doesn't want to play well in the Euros and let Belgium, which we'll take. We will take any day of the week.
They've been saying about the England team, about the fact of that cohesion of them, that togetherness and things like that, that it doesn't matter as such that if you're sat on the bench, and even if you've not played, everybody's still there together, celebrating like that big group and things like that. And that's what you're saying, like with Danny Ward and that as well, is that he's still part of that group, and obviously made to feel like being part of that group, rather than being the outsider sat on the bench sort of thing. And if you can celebrate like that, and I totally agree that the FA Cup final and that, the celebrations afterwards was like, yeah, I'm part of this. I'm not just the fact of a bench player. I'm part of the big team and the big picture sort of thing. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I really think so as well. And that's what's, again, the brilliant, the Rodgers and Southgate, again, something that don't get credit for is the off the work stuff, and the fact that they're having pool parties. Obviously, with these footballs, they have probably extended ones, but they're playing around like children in a pool. But you look at it going, oh, I want to be there joining in with that kind of stuff, and it just looks great fun. Anyway, I don't think there's anything else about Euros, but I want to move it on to obviously some of the transfers and get your thoughts on it. First, JT, we've got again Daka. I mean, I remember reading the rumors and thinking, yeah, he's not coming to us. We're not that caliber of player that we get. He can go to another club, and we managed to get him. I mean, what are your thoughts on him? Because we're just, as you probably saw from the videos I've done before, absolutely ecstatic with how he's with what he looks like as well.
Yeah. So I hand on my heart, I have not watched much Austrian leagues, soccer, football. Sorry for you guys. But yeah, so part of the excitement for me about him is, as Glenn was talking about earlier, seeing like you can look at a highlight tape and it might like look great, but you don't really know. But yeah, so part of the excitement is for me is like it's almost like you don't know what you're gonna get exactly. Like let's hope that it's gonna be just an absolutely phenomenal transfer and it's gonna work out, which. Like it's just like it has the potential, I think, to be a big boom of a transfer, which we've seen in recent years. And so I have every bit of faith in our scouting department that they did their due diligence and they picked this one out correctly. It's very exciting. That goal return, it doesn't matter what league you're playing in, it doesn't matter anywhere in the world. If you're scoring that many goals, that's an obscene amount of goals to score in a season. So. Yeah, I'm more than excited for that. Yeah,
and I know, Glenn, Leicester City have been looking for that player, and people have, because obviously Leicester's transfer policy is amazing, and saying it again and again. However, that's one position that I know opposition fans were saying to me, well, that's the main position that you've got to get right to replace that player. And I think we've got that. But again, it will take time for him to bed in, won't it?
Yeah, I think that's what everybody has got to remember, is that I don't think he's going to be hitting the ground running and looking to take Jamie's shirt off him anytime soon. However, he's going to have that time to be able to bed in with Vardy, to learn from Vardy. It seems like that, with his speed and some of his strengths that he's got, that he can play off the shoulder in a similar way to Vardy does. He's by no means going to be a one-for-one replacement, because you can't replace Vardy. There's only one Vardy. They bust the mold when he was, when he was born as such. But I think from learning from somebody like Jamie, being in a squad with Brendan as the coach as well, he's going to be able to highlight certain areas and be the fact, right, go away and work on this, and go away and look at developing on this side of things. He'll see his strengths, and then he'll also see his weaknesses, and then hopefully then building over this year. And I'm sure that we're going to see him at some point, but build him up, and then just see where it goes. I mean, it looks like he could be frightening for some of those defence, that's for sure. And I would say the highlight reels only say so much, and like JT said, but those numbers, oh my God, they are frightening. When I knew nothing about him before we were linked with him, sort of thing, and then but just even with, you see his interaction and that with the Leicester fans. Yeah. And that as well, he's already warming to the Leicester fans. I think it's all somebody already said that he's already got a 2 crap games head start. The fans are going to be, oh, that's all right, we'll let him off because he seems like a good lad, sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully for the this season, we'll see him sort of embedded into the squad, and then hopefully see him light up from there.
And yeah, he's definitely a player for the future. And obviously with Brendan Rodgers, we know what he's done with the squad that he's got and the players he's brought in. Like how he's took James Justin to the levels that I didn't even think he could get is absolutely insane. Anyway, we'll go on. Yeah, and it's again, when he was supposed to be the backup to Ricardo and the levels that Ricardo set, and the fact that we're saying 6 months later after his debut, well, like his first Premier League debut, that we're saying this guy could replace Ricardo is insane. And then just speaking on that, obviously players were developing. Soumare, JT, that's been officially announced now. What are your thoughts? Because obviously he just looks like a big get-off player, which is really good to see as well. Because that's one criticism. I don't have too much criticism about Leicester, but the physicality is kind of an area that we do need bulking up, and Soumare definitely gives you that.
Yeah, and it's just such an interesting skill set that he brings. Like he's not He's definitely not a number 10. He's not like a creative player, but the way that he progresses the ball with the dribble, it's almost like this might be putting too much expectation and stuff like that, but it's almost like a Pogba type quality. How his big body can just like glide and like dribble past people and progress the ball in that way is extremely exciting to be able to think about. Because like we think about Yuri being a metronome and Ndidi being more of a destroyer, and this guy, he could really just kind of fit right into a spot between, like somewhere in between, that is very unique, and not a lot of players have that skill and ability with that size, speed, strength, and just what looks like good technical ability. And he's young, and we got him for a snip of what of what other players would be going for, especially if they're linked to like Manchester United. I'm sure they would have probably paid like 50 mil for him. But and I think Lille had some financial problems actually coming out of this season, so I think they had to sell. If I remember reading that correctly. But yeah, no, it's very exciting, and I think it'll be great depth for Europa League and again top 4 push.
Yeah, and that's got to be. I mean, you can't do it 3 times in a row, so this has to be the year. Yeah, and the last game of the season again. I was like, anyway, we could talk about that for ages. Glenn, what are your thoughts on Soumare? Because again, as JT was saying, I know they have financial problems, but we've took advantage of that and just gone, right, get in the team. And I know that Fofana was a big help in that as well. He ended up liking and retweeting some stuff, which I bet you got in trouble with the club again. But yes, what are your thoughts on him? Because again, he's for the strength and depth, and it's something that's been criticised by Leicester City, even in 2016, where we didn't really have that much off the bench. Now we are developing slowly in the right way a squad that's going to compete to hopefully get top 4.
Yeah, and Brendan's mentioned about the physicality side of things before, said that, he wished that we had been stronger in certain areas, but either be it the fact of post games, so specifically for a certain game, or just in general, he's mentioned it. So with Soumare, for somebody that's so young but so physical, is going to be awesome. I think not only for us, but for himself, maybe being able to push into the team and to be helped that way. You're right, the fact that he almost fits in between, but JT was saying he fits between the Wilf and the Yuri type player, which is great for the fact of being that squad player, so that he could come off the bench and be able to maybe fit in into either role, or whether then maybe down the line that we're going to be maybe even building around him as such. I mean, it all depends what happens with the likes of Yuri. I'm hoping, obviously, once I know I've finished with the Euros now. Once the Euros are finished, that he's going to sign an extension to his contract. But the contracts mean nothing, come January. All it means is that he won't go anywhere pre-season if he signs an extension now. Come January, he might be, other people might be sniffing around him again. But yeah, Soumare is going to be good for as that depth player, the squad player coming in again for your cup games, for Europa League, things like this. You got the likes of Dewsbury Hall as well coming back. Yeah, he's going to be there in that midfield as well. He's going to be fighting. He's come up that same way that Harvey Barnes has. Go out on loan, and then go out on another loan with somebody else, and then moving up and up. I'm hoping he's going to stay with us now and push, rather than going for a. The only other thing I could think is if he went for a higher up championship team. But I think he'll stay with us this year and push for a place, and hopefully be that squad player and get pushed for more time. For more game time that way as well. But yeah, it's exciting to see Soumare again with his build and his physicality, and the fact that it's not just that strength, that he can dribble with that ball as well. And for a pretty big guy as well, with his how tall he is and his frame and that again, another exciting player hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope so, because again, his footwork is quite good as well. But again, let's not forget that these players will take time. And then the final one, which hasn't been officially confirmed, but just as like Soumare was just before he signed, pretty much all but confirmed. Maybe by the time if you watched it in a couple of days, he might have been confirmed already. But Ryan Bertrand, JT, I mean, we've been looking for a player to work on that side. Ryan Bertrand is going to fit into that right hand side. I'm gonna try and sort a video on that in a second, but I've just not had enough time at the moment. But what are your thoughts on obviously that signing, because that's pretty much confirmed at this point?
Yeah, so again, another one of Leicester's worst kept secrets for this summer. I don't know. Their announcement schedule just seems strange. I don't know. It's just weird. But anyway, no, I'm excited. That's a good piece, I think. As much as he's kind of been bad for Southampton when we play them, he's been a booking machine for them whenever we seem to play against the Saints. But no, we kind of need that person that's going to provide some veteran experience depth on for our fullbacks, because now with Fuchs gone, we need that old head. And like, if you look at our squad, nobody. Oh, I think I'm right in saying nobody has played in a Champions League final except for Ryan Bertrand. He played with Chelsea, started in the Champions League final. So that you can't really coach that experience and having that mindset in the team. So I'm excited. It's obviously not as exciting as the other two probably are, but you don't have to have all flashy, exciting signings to be a good squad. So.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, shout out to Ryan as well. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Glenn, obviously over to you with Ryan Bertrand as well. What do you think about him? Because obviously strength and depth, but at the same time, again, as we'll talk about Soumare, he's building that squad out. And obviously with the likes of Luke Thomas, obviously as amazing as he looks, he's been caught out at certain times when you come against Pepe against Arsenal, and he was definitely caught out. Maybe this is the strength and depth we need to basically push us on to the next level.
Yeah, and it's not only the fact of on the pitch; it's also on the training ground as well, where you have Thomas is going to be able to learn from somebody like Bertrand, and Brendan's always said about the fact of wanting winners and having winners, and like JT said, we've got one now with or potentially, because he's not officially signed yet, but now we got one with Bertrand with that the Champions League experience and winning that FA Cup winner. Those sorts of things. I think Europa League as well with him. So yeah, he's a serial winner, and that's what we need around us. And again, like we said, with the fact of Daka going to be learning off Vardy, we can have somebody like Thomas who can learn off Ryan as well. And we needed that stopgap as well. So that we can get James Justin back up and running, and we've seen how long it's taken for people with these injuries to get back, and it's not going to be easy for him. But I mean, I expect him to be back, but we need that backup this season with Fuchs going as well. He's going to be taking over that role, and hopefully then that's going to be shoring up that left hand side for us, and that depth again that we definitely need. We don't want to be in that same situation at the end of next season where we're sort of like struggling for the fact of we were probably one or two players short of making it to top four last year is what I think, and hopefully then bringing in somebody like Bertrand is going to stop that.
Yeah, I'm hoping so as well. And as you were saying, serial winners, for example, Daka has won pretty much everything in Austria. Yeah. And then Soumare just won the league in France as well. I know obviously there's a difference in league, but they obviously know this is the next step. And bringing in that mentality is going to be really, really useful, obviously, with that. Is there any players that you should be, again, I know you mentioned Dewsbury Hall, Glenn, but JT, is there any players that you think will to step up their levels this year? Because there's going to be again, Brendan Rodgers has to try and bring the best out of players. We saw last year, obviously, Yuri Tielemans stepped up massively. Luke Thomas towards the end of the season. I mean, he gave the assist for the FA Cup goal. I mean, it's unbelievable. Is there any players that you think that might be there just to step up towards the beginning of the season? Because bearing in mind, some of the players that played in the Euros, like the Yuri Tielemans of the squad, are going to be absolutely knackered. So I think they'll be built into the squad slowly.
Yeah, so I guess the two ones that I'm going to have my eye on for big growth in this season are two that are already two of our best players, really. I think Harvey Barnes, when he comes back, I think if he can play like we've seen, and increase that clinical ability in front of goal, like I think he's just going to be an absolute terror. And I think this could be his season. What is he, 23, 24 now? Like he should be kicking on to that next level that I think we all know that he can. And the big grower for me for coming into this season, I think it's going to be Ricardo. Obviously, he showed levels before the injury, but he just wasn't really at the races to where he would probably like to be this past season. But I think with this whole summer off, like he wasn't with the Portuguese team and he was just able to get fit and get back to it. I think he could be the one that would really, once he gets back, would really help our attacking options. But as for like just like someone that hasn't been at the highest level yet, I think Dewsbury Hall would be the one that I want to watch get to that next level, because he's just such a pleasing footballer to watch on the eye. Just the way he passes it around and the way that his movement and everything, just fun to watch. And yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely one to keep an eye on in pre-season with Yuri Tillemans going to be out the squad. He's going to be that player in that position who's obviously had the summer, obviously come back from Luton to kind of train and get back into the squad, and pre-season can be massive for him. Glenn, over to you. Kind of similar question. Who do you think we should keep an eye on during pre-season / the beginning of the tournament as well?
Yeah, I think KDH aside, I think in that midfield, Tavares. I'm not too sure what the plans are with him, whether he's going to be going out on loan or I haven't seen anything with regards to that.
I think Tavares is done, my friend. I think because his contract has come to an end and he hasn't signed, so I think he's a free agent at the moment.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. Lashabella.
Yes, he's going on loan. I think to Luton.
And that doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is the thing with regards to the under-23s. I think those that are then they've almost like outgrowing the under-23s, but not quite ready for the first team squad. You're going to get them going out on loan and that as well. I think the one that maybe again, I don't know whether it'll be a loan thing, but certainly with his debut that in the first team would be Daley Campbell. When he came on, he had a phenomenal debut for us. And another one, physicality wise. Yeah, I mean, he's a strong fella. So I could see him maybe being given a chance. But like I say, it's difficult with the under-23s. Unless you're already in the fringe of the first team squad, then once you start shining in under-23s, you're probably going to be going out on loan unless we're desperate for somebody to bring in to cover. Because there's a few in there in the under-23s that have been showing potential that have already either gone out on loan or maybe going out on loan. But I think really, like JT said, it's trying to get those ones that are injured back in and back up and running and hopefully back to their full potential. I mean, we all know what they're like when they're top of the game with Harvey Barnes and things like that. I mean, you think about how long that some of these have been out now with Justin and Barnes and that, and what the team and the squad's going to be like once they're back in fully up and running. Yeah, we've got a pretty strong squad there, so let's hope that they can come back through with flying colours. Yeah,
let's hope so. Yeah,
I have one more thing to add. I know at one point there was like some rumors about the I think his name's Sawa he plays at Leuven or played at Leuven like last season. I think he's a winger. People have been really like hyping him up for the past like few months. I feel like I know that they're like our sister club. Have either of you heard anything about him coming back to Leicester? Because that could be a possible one that you could see come to the first team.
I think the levels. So we've mentioned that before. I think we were on the Rob Tanner interview. I'd recommend if people watch, have a look. It's an hour long, but we make sure we cover as much as possible in that hour. Just drill everything. And he was one of the players that he doesn't know too much about. However, I think he said goodbye to OH Leuven, but he was on loan from Leicester City anyway. Yeah. So I think he'll be coming back into the squad. And bearing in mind, we've got, if we want to play a position with wingers, we've got Harvey Barnes, Mark Albrighton, and nobody else. So he might step into that third position. But going from the first tier of Belgian football to then the Europa League, is a big step. Oh, I'm sorry, the Premier League and Europa League. So I think he might be brought in, and I think he's a good stopgap. And his numbers were impressive. They got 8 goals and 11 assists. I can't remember off the top of my head last season, which is not bad. So if we could take him and train him up, that potentially would be one, in my opinion, as well. That could be. And if we're looking at a right wing is looking for a position, potentially that could be. But with the play, we've spent wisely, because the right wing was a priority, but it seems like we are going to get somebody on loan. But they are kind of sorting that out. But it will be on loan if we get any more players on that right hand side. But if there's, I think that's it. But do you know what? I think it's 15 days or 14 days now until the preseason.
Yeah.
So it'll be football is starting to come back again, and we'll be able to go to grounds again. So that will be. I know, obviously, unfortunately, you two can't be, but I don't know if you've got any. If you managed to go, because I've never been to preseason games before, Glenn. What the atmosphere is like? Because this season, I'm definitely there.
That I have been, but got this going back quite a few years, and you'd only get a handful of people going. You're talking in your 30, 40 sort of people, and
right,
and that's about it. You could be there, chatting to the players afterwards and things like that. And but now you're finding that there's, I know certainly from some of my mates back home, you find a lot more that are going to these. And before you just used to turn up, pay a few quid on the gate, and that would be it. Whereas now it's you're selling tickets, and it's done properly now. But it's. I said to my wife last night, I said, that's it Sunday. I said, with the Euros done, you can have a break from football now. And she was like, oh great. And I said, yeah, 2 weeks, and then pre-season starts. She just rolled her eyes at me.
It's just one of those things. Again, the more you try to explain it, the bigger hole you dig, and you're just like, "Well, just leave it there." But again, thanks for both of you for joining. Really appreciate you. To everybody who's watching, thank you so much. If you can leak a like and subscribing on the video, we have got some good stuff coming. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes at the moment, but yeah, really looking forward to hopefully sharing with you that soon. And we'll see everybody in the next video. So goodbye.